The first time Liza Hartwell saw Dashiell Thornfield, she had coffee spilled on her blouse, a crumpled resume in her bag, and was about to commit the most embarrassing mistake, and without knowing it, the most transformative of her life. "Sorry I'm late." Liza burst through the mahogany door, breathless, her blonde waves escaping from an improvised bun. "The subway was delayed, then the elevator got stuck, and I swear this building is a maze designed by someone who hates poor people." She froze. The room wasn't what she expected. No folding tables with application forms. No other nervous candidates flipping through brochures about corporate benefits. Instead, there was carpet so thick her worn shoes sank into it. A conference table that probably cost more than her car, if she had one. And 6 men in suits staring at her as if a drunk unicorn had invaded a board meeting. Liza blinked. "Isn't this room 2304? "Executive penthouse," said a voice that could melt frozen butter, or freeze souls, depending on the tone. And oh, that tone was icy. "23rd floor. You're on the 33rd. Liza turned slowly toward the voice. And that's when she saw him. Dashiell Thornfield was leaning back at the head of the table like the king of a very bored kingdom. Perfectly styled black hair, a jaw that looked carved from Italian marble, and eyes. Good Lord, those eyes. The color of expensive whiskey and twice as dangerous. He wore a 3-piece suit so well tailored it probably had its own name, and the way he looked at her made Liza feel simultaneously invisible and exposed. Oh, that was all she could manage. Very eloquent, Liza. Dad would be so proud. "Oh," Dashiell repeated, and there was something cruel in the way he mimicked her tone. "Fascinating contribution to our discussion about a $4 billion acquisition. Any other insightful observations about your subway journey, or—" The men around the table laughed. That kind of obsequious laughter from people who need to please the boss. Liza's face heated. "I said I'm sorry. I'll just—" "Wait." Dashiell raised one hand, and everyone in the room fell into immediate silence. He tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that made Liza's stomach knot. "You came for the administrative assistant interview?" "Yes, 10 floors down, as you so brilliantly concluded yourself." He drummed his fingers on the table. "So tell me, Miss Hartwell, Liza Hartwell, Miss Hartwell." He said her name as if evaluating a wine that might be spoiled. What makes someone who can't even find the correct floor think she's qualified to work at Thornfield Enterprises? The silence in the room was so thick, Liza could hear her own heartbeat. Part of her, the sensible part that paid bills on time and never ate dessert before dinner, told her to leave immediately and save what remained of her dignity. But there was another part. The part that grew up with a father who fixed tractors and a mother who fed half of Cedar Falls, Iowa, every time someone got sick. The part that had driven 36 hours to New York with $500 and an idiotic dream that things could be different. That part was very, very angry. "You know what?" Liza straightened her shoulders. "You're absolutely right. I shouldn't be here. Not in this ridiculously ostentatious room where you spend my annual salary on gourmet coffee." She gestured toward the silver coffee maker on the sideboard. "I should be 10 floors down, with people who treat other people like human beings instead of annoying flies in your kingdom of superiority." Dashiell's eyes narrowed. But was it her imagination? There was a spark of something beyond coldness there. "But you know what I have that you clearly don't?" Liza continued, and at this point her filter had left for the Caribbean and wasn't coming back anytime soon. Humility, kindness, the ability to not be a complete— "Careful," Dashiell interrupted softly, but there was steel in his voice. "Finish that sentence and you can forget any job in this building, or this city, or possibly this coast." "Charming," Liza shot back. "Threats now? Very mature. I bet your mother is so proud." One of the men gasped. Another looked ready to faint. But Dashiell did something that later Liza would swear was her imagination. He almost smiled. It was only for a second. A slight curve at the corner of that perfect, irritating mouth. But it was enough to make something strange happen in Liza's chest, as if her heart had stumbled over its own feet. "Leave," Dashiell said calmly. "Gladly." Liza spun on her heels, her bag hitting her hip. "But leave your resume." She stopped with her hand on the doorknob. "What?" "Your resume. I presume you have one, despite your theatrical entrance." Liza turned slowly. "Why?" Dashiell leaned back in his chair, interlacing his fingers. "Curiosity. I want to see what kind of qualifications make someone so confident." It was a trap. It had to be. But Liza needed this job, needed any job. Her bank account had 2 digits, and her landlord had said that Southern charm didn't pay rent. She pulled the crumpled resume from her bag and crossed that ridiculously soft carpet. Up close, Dashiell was even more disturbingly handsome, and she could smell his cologne, something expensive and woody that probably cost more than her rent. "Here." She tossed the paper on the table in front of him. "Not very impressive by your standards, I'm sure. Just a degree from a state university, 3 jobs to pay for college, and enough volunteer work to prove I have a soul, which I imagine is more than you can say." Dashiell picked up the resume, his eyes scanning it. "Waitress, cashier, tutor?" He looked up. 3 jobs simultaneously? Some people aren't born with silver spoons, Mr. Thornfield. It's Mr. Thornfield or Dashiell, never sir. That's my father, and we're sufficiently different. He returned to the resume. Graduated with honors in business administration. Interesting. It's what smart people do when they can't afford Harvard. I went to Princeton. My condolences. This time there was no doubt. He definitely smiled. A quick, predatory smile that made Liza wonder if she'd just made a terrible or brilliant mistake. "Miss Hartwell," Dashiell said, setting the resume aside. "You just repeatedly insulted me, questioned my parenting skills, and implied I'm a soulless sociopath. Technically, I didn't say sociopath." Silence. But he still had that almost smile. "For those reasons, you should be escorted from the building by security." Liza's stomach sank. Of course. Of course this would blow up in her face. "However," Dashiell continued, standing up. He was taller than she'd thought, and suddenly the space between them felt very small. "It's been 3 years since someone had the courage to tell me what they really think. And I sort of appreciate that." Liza blinked. "You... what?" "Don't make me repeat myself. I rarely explain my decisions." He extended his hand. "Come work for me." "But I... wait, what?" Liza stared at his hand as if it were a snake. "As your administrative assistant?" "No, that would be a waste." Dashiell tilted his head. "As my personal assistant. You'd work directly with me. Manage my schedule, handle my correspondence, accompany me to meetings. Basically, you'd be my shadow for 60 hours a week." "That sounds like a nightmare." "The salary is $120,000 annually plus benefits." Liza almost choked. That was more money than she'd ever seen in her life. That was pay off all student debt at once kind of money. That was send money home to mom and dad kind of money. That was sell your soul to the devil in a suit kind of money. "Why me?" she asked suspiciously. "Because everyone else is afraid of me. You clearly aren't." Dashiell waited. "So? Will you accept? Or will you go back to your 10 floors down and wonder what if for the rest of your life?" Liza looked at those whiskey eyes and that extended hand, and knew with absolute certainty, that accepting this job would change everything. What she didn't know was that everything would include her heart. "I start Monday," she said, and shook his hand. His palm was warm, firm, and when their fingers touched, Liza felt something electric race up her spine. By the expression on Dashiell's face, quick surprise, quickly masked, he felt it too. And so began the most complicated, frustrating, and completely inevitable thing either of them had ever experienced. They just didn't know it yet. Liza's first day at Thornfield Enterprises began with a dress code violation, a spilled latte, and the dawning realization that she'd made a deal with the most infuriating man in Manhattan. "You're wearing that?" Dashiell didn't even look up from his tablet as Liza walked into his corner office at 7:58 a.m. 2 minutes early, thank you very much. The morning sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, bathing everything in golden light except, apparently, his mood. Liza glanced down at her outfit. A modest navy dress from Target, nude flats, and the nicest blazer she owned. What's wrong with it? It screams I shop at places with fluorescent lighting. He finally looked at her, those whiskey eyes conducting a slow, devastating inventory that made her feel simultaneously underdressed and overdressed. "Vivienne will take you shopping at lunch." "Who's Vivienne?" "My previous assistant. She's training you for the week before she transfers to the London office." Dashiell set down his tablet. "She also has taste. Pay attention to her." "How delightful," Liza muttered. "Anything else, Your Majesty? Should I curtsy? Polish your crown?" The corner of his mouth twitched. "Coffee, black, no sugar, from the cafe on 5th, not the swill in our break room." "That's a 20-minute walk." "Then I suggest you hurry. I have a conference call in 18 minutes, and I'm significantly less charming when uncaffeinated." "I can't imagine you being less charming," Liza said sweetly. "That would require being charming to begin with." Dashiell's eyes locked on hers, and for a moment, the air between them crackled with something dangerous and electric. Then he smiled, that predatory smile that should have come with a warning label. "Careful, Liza. I'm starting to think you actually like sparring with me." Her name on his lips did something strange to her pulse. "I like being employed. There's a difference." "Is there?" He leaned back in his chair, looking entirely too pleased with himself. "Then prove it." "Coffee." "Fifth Avenue. 17 minutes now." Liza grabbed her purse and practically ran. Vivienne Chen was everything Liza wasn't: polished, poised, and possessed of a wardrobe that could fund a small nation. She was also, surprisingly, wonderful. "He called your outfit fluorescent lighting chic, didn't he?" Vivienne said over lunch at a restaurant where the menu didn't list prices, never a good sign for Liza's wallet. "Close enough." Liza stabbed her salad. "Does he insult everyone, or am I special?" "Oh, honey, if he's insulting you, you're very special." Vivienne sipped her wine. Dashiell ignores people he doesn't care about. The fact that he's engaging means he finds you interesting. Lucky me. I'm serious. I've worked for him for 3 years. I've seen him go through 7 assistants. You know why they quit? Vivienne leaned forward. Because he was polite to them. Distant. Cold. They felt invisible. Liza frowned. That's actually kind of sad. Dashiell Thornfield is a lot of things. Arrogant, demanding, ridiculously hot. But sad. That's the word. Vivienne's expression softened. His father destroyed everything warm in him. Built an empire but forgot to raise a son. Now Dashiell's trying to prove he's nothing like the old man, while simultaneously becoming exactly like him. Why are you telling me this? Because you challenged him, in front of the board, and instead of destroying you, he hired you. Vivienne smiled. That's not the behavior of a man who's indifferent. That's the behavior of a man who's intrigued, maybe even fascinated. Liza's cheeks warmed. He's my boss. That's inappropriate. Since when has Dashiell Thornfield cared about appropriate? Vivienne signaled for the check. Now come on. We're getting you some power suits. Consider it a work necessity, and my parting gift. When Liza returned to the office at 3 p.m., loaded with shopping bags and a credit card bill that made her nauseous despite Dashiell's expense-it mandate, she found him on a phone call, his voice cold enough to frost the windows. I don't care if it's inconvenient, Marcus. Make it happen or clean out your desk. He hung up, without waiting for a response. Rough day? Liza set down the bags. The Seattle team is incompetent. The Tokyo deal is stalling. And my father decided to give an interview about the future of Thornfield Enterprises without consulting me. He pinched the bridge of his nose. So yes, rough day. Without thinking, Liza walked to his minibar, because of course he had a minibar in his office, and poured 2 fingers of scotch. She set it in front of him. Drinking on the job, Miss Hartwell? It's for you, and it's past 3, so technically acceptable for brooding billionaires. She hesitated. Want to talk about it? Dashiell stared at the glass, then at her. For a moment, his carefully constructed armor cracked, and she saw something raw underneath. Exhaustion, frustration, loneliness. No, he said finally, but he drank the scotch. Thank you. You're welcome. Their eyes met, and Liza felt that electric zing again. Stronger this time, like touching a live wire. Dashiell felt it too. She could see it in the way his jaw tightened, the way his fingers gripped the glass. You should go home, he said quietly. It's late. It's 3 o'clock. For you, it's late. You've been running around all day. He turned back to his computer. See you tomorrow, Liza. 7:30 sharp. It was a dismissal, but it didn't feel cold. It felt protective. And as Liza walked out, her arms full of designer clothes and her head full of questions, she realized something terrifying. She was starting to like Dashiell Thornfield. God help her. The charity gala invitation landed on Liza's desk like a grenade with a silk ribbon. You're joking, she said, staring at the embossed gold lettering. Dashiell didn't look up from his laptop. I never joke about the Metropolitan Art Foundation's annual fundraiser. It's tedious, pretentious, and full of people I despise, which is why you're coming with me. As your assistant? As my date. Liza's brain short-circuited. Your what? Don't look so horrified. It's purely strategic. Now he did look at her, those whiskey eyes glinting with something that might have been amusement. My father will be there with his latest girlfriend. She's 26, by the way. My ex-fiancé will also attend with her new hedge fund husband. I need someone on my arm who won't expect anything beyond a free meal and decent conversation. Ex-fiancé? Liza hadn't meant to sound so interested. Dashiell's expression shuddered. Ancient history. Are you in or not? Everything in Liza screamed that this was a terrible idea. Going to a gala as Dashiell Thornfield's fake date? That was rom-com territory, and rom-coms ended with either happily ever after or spectacular heartbreak. No in between. What's the dress code? She heard herself ask. His smile could have melted steel. That's my girl. Black tie. I'll send a dress to your apartment. I can buy my own. With what? Your salary doesn't start until next month, and I saw your bank statement when HR processed your paperwork. He held up a hand before she could protest. It's not charity. It's a uniform. You wouldn't show up to a construction site without a hard hat, would you? Comparing a gala to a construction site feels apt, actually. Doesn't it? For a moment, they shared a smile, a real one, warm and conspiratorial. And Liza's heart did that stupid fluttery thing again. She was in so much trouble. The dress arrived on Saturday morning, a floor-length emerald silk gown that probably cost more than her childhood home. There was also a note in sharp, masculine handwriting. Green brings out your eyes. D. Liza stared at the note for a full 5 minutes. He'd noticed her eyes? When? Between insulting her wardrobe and barking orders about coffee. Her roommate Patricia wolf-whistled when Liza emerged from the bathroom that evening. Holy hell. You look like a movie star. I look like I'm playing dress-up in someone else's life, Liza muttered, adjusting the dress's elegant neckline. You look like a woman who's about to make her billionaire boss swallow his tongue. Patricia grinned. Have fun. Use protection. I mean emotional protection. Because that man is dangerous. It's not like that. Sure, honey, and I'm the Queen of England. When the car service arrived at her building, Liza expected a driver. She did not expect Dashiell Thornfield himself, stepping out of the black town car in a tuxedo that should have been illegal. He looked like every James Bond fantasy ever committed to film. The tux fit him perfectly, of course it did, and his dark hair was artfully styled, and when he saw her, he went completely still. Liza. Her name came out rougher than usual. Too much? She resisted the urge to fidget with the dress. Not enough. He cleared his throat. I mean, you look appropriate. Professional. Good. You sound like you're describing a quarterly earnings report. You look stunning. The words came out sharp, almost angry. Beautiful. Is that better? Her cheeks flamed. That works. Dashiell helped her into the car, his hand warm against her lower back. When he slid in beside her, the space felt impossibly small, charged with electricity. Ground rules, he said as the car pulled away. We stay for exactly 2 hours. You don't have to laugh at anyone's jokes unless they're actually funny. If my father approaches, you're allowed to insult him. I'll consider it a bonus. And if anyone asks how we met, I crashed your board meeting and called you soulless. His laugh surprised them both, deep, genuine, and far too appealing. That would certainly be memorable. Let's say we met through work. Keep it vague. This is so weird, Liza murmured. Welcome to my life. Dashiell poured champagne from the car's minibar, handing her a glass. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're here. You make tedious things less tedious. Their fingers brushed as she took the glass, and that electric zing shot through her again, stronger than ever. From the way Dashiell's eyes darkened, he felt it too. 2 hours, Liza said softly. I can survive 2 hours. With me? There was something vulnerable in his voice. Or despite me. She looked at him. Really looked at him, and saw past the armor. Saw the lonely man underneath the cold billionaire mask. Saw someone who'd learned to keep people at arm's length because letting them closer hurt too much. With you, she said. Definitely with you. Dashiell's smile transformed his entire face. Then let's give them a show they'll never forget. As they pulled up to the museum's red carpet, Liza realized something both thrilling and terrifying. This fake date was starting to feel dangerously real. And from the way Dashiell held her hand, protective, possessive, gentle, he was thinking the same thing. The Metropolitan Museum glittered like a jewelry box come to life. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, and enough designer gowns to fund a small country's GDP. Liza felt like Cinderella. If Cinderella's prince was a surly billionaire who thought smiling was a sign of weakness. Stay close, Dashiell murmured, his hand settling possessively on her waist as they entered the ballroom. And remember, you're far too good for everyone here, including me. Before Liza could respond, a woman's voice cut through the crowd like a knife through butter. Dashiell, darling. The woman who glided toward them was stunning in that effortless old money way. Chestnut hair in a perfect chignon, a champagne-colored gown that probably cost more than Liza's college tuition, and a diamond necklace that could blind someone at 20 paces. Dashiell's entire body went rigid. Celeste. Ah. The ex-fiancé. It's been too long. Celeste's eyes flickered to Liza with the kind of assessment usually reserved for cockroaches. And who is this lovely creature? Liza Hartwell, Dashiell said, pulling Liza closer. My girlfriend. Liza nearly choked on air. Girlfriend? He'd said date, not girlfriend. That was a significant upgrade in the fake relationship department. How sweet, Celeste purred, but her smile had teeth. Tell me, Liza, how did you meet our dear Dashiell? Through work, I presume. She stormed into my board meeting, insulted me repeatedly, and called me soulless. Dashiell said smoothly. I was smitten immediately. Celeste's perfect smile faltered. How unconventional. That's me, Liza said brightly. Unconventional and soulless detecting. It's a gift. Dashiell's hand tightened on her waist. Whether in warning or appreciation, she couldn't tell. But when she glanced up at him, his eyes were dancing with suppressed laughter. If you'll excuse us, Dashiell said, already steering Liza away. We have people to avoid. Once they were safely across the room, Liza whispered, Girlfriend? It sounded more convincing than date. He grabbed 2 champagne flutes from a passing waiter. Besides, Celeste only respects commitment. Casual dating implies availability. And you're not available? Dashiell looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Not tonight. Tonight I'm entirely spoken for. Before Liza could unpack that loaded statement, another voice boomed across the ballroom. There's my disappointing son. If Celeste was ice, Dashiell's father was permafrost. Tall, silver-haired, with Dashiell's same sharp features but none of his hidden warmth. Beside him stood a young blonde in a barely there red dress, who couldn't have been more than 25. Father, Dashiell said, his voice devoid of emotion. Amber, delightful as always. Don't be rude, Dashiell. Amber is a yoga instructor, very spiritual. The elder Thornfield's eyes landed on Liza. And who's this? Another assistant you're pretending to date to make your old man jealous? Liza felt Dashiell tense beside her, but before he could respond, she stepped forward. Liza Hartwell, and I'm not pretending anything. She extended her hand with a smile that was all Iowa sweetness, the kind that hit a spine of steel. Though I'm fascinated by your assumption. Does insulting your son's relationships usually work out well for you, Mr. Thornfield? The old man blinked, clearly unused to being challenged. Because from where I'm standing, Liza continued, her voice pleasant but firm, Dashiell is brilliant, successful, and one of the most genuine people I've ever met. If that's disappointing to you, well, that says more about your expectations than his achievements. The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Then Dashiell's father laughed, a sharp, barking sound. She's got fire. I'll give you that, boy. Don't screw this one up like you did the last one. He walked away, Amber trailing behind him in a cloud of expensive perfume. Dashiell stared at Liza as if she'd just performed a magic trick. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Nobody talks to you like that. Not on my watch. She squeezed his hand. Fake girlfriend privileges. Liza. His voice was rough, raw. Thank you. You're welcome. Now, didn't you promise me a free meal? Because I'm starving, and if I have to be here for 2 hours, I'm at least getting my money's worth of shrimp cocktail. Dashiell laughed. Really laughed. And suddenly the ballroom didn't feel quite so suffocating. He pulled her toward the buffet, his hand never leaving hers. You know what? He said softly. This might be the best gala I've ever attended. Because of the shrimp. Because of you. And there it was. That electricity again, crackling between them like lightning. Liza knew she should pull away, should remember this was fake, should protect her increasingly vulnerable heart. Instead, she squeezed his hand back and let herself pretend just for tonight that this was real, that maybe, possibly, it could be more than pretend. They lasted exactly 2 hours and 7 minutes at the gala before Dashiell whispered, "Let's get out of here." And Liza nodded so fast she nearly gave herself whiplash. The night air was crisp as they escaped to the waiting car, and Liza kicked off her heels the moment the door closed, sighing in relief. "Remind me never to wear shoes designed by sadists," she groaned. Dashiell loosened his bow tie, and Liza tried not to notice how unfairly attractive that simple gesture was. You lasted longer than most. Celeste used to complain after 20 minutes. Why did you propose to her? The question escaped before Liza could stop it. Sorry, that's none of my business. No, it's fair. Dashiell poured them both champagne from the car's minibar. I proposed because it made sense. Our families moved in the same circles. She understood my world. I thought that was enough. But it wasn't. She wanted the Thornfield name and the money. I wanted... He paused, staring into his glass. I don't know what I wanted. Something real, maybe. Something that felt less like a business transaction. Liza's heart squeezed. You deserve that. You deserve someone who sees you, not just your bank account. Do I? He turned to her, and in the dim light of the car, his eyes looked almost haunted. I'm not sure I'm capable of being what someone needs. My father raised me to close deals, not open hearts. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Without thinking, Liza reached out and touched his hand. You're more than what he made you, Dashiell. I've seen it. In 2 weeks? Liza, you barely know me. I know you sent me a dress with a note about my eyes. I know you protected me from your father tonight. I know you laugh at my terrible jokes even when you pretend not to. She held his gaze. I know you're terrified of feeling anything because you think it makes you weak. But it doesn't. It makes you human. Dashiell went very still. Then, slowly, he turned his hand over and laced his fingers through hers. You're dangerous. You know that? Me? I'm from Iowa. We're about as dangerous as corn. Exactly. You're wholesome and genuine, and you make me want things I stopped believing in years ago. His thumb traced circles on her palm, sending shivers up her arm. That's terrifying. What kinds of things? Her voice came out breathier than intended. This. He lifted their joined hands, holding hands and meaning it. Bringing someone to a gala and wishing it was real. Looking at a woman in a green dress and forgetting how to breathe. Liza's heart was doing gymnastics. Dashiell, I'm your boss. This is inappropriate. But he didn't let go of her hand. I should maintain professional boundaries. Probably. I should take you home and forget tonight happened. That would be smart. I'm usually very smart. He leaned closer, his free hand coming up to cup her face. But right now, all I can think about is how badly I want to kiss you. Liza's breath caught. That would be a terrible idea. The worst. We work together. Awful conflict of interest. You're still technically my fake boyfriend tonight. Terrible reason to make it real. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, and Liza's eyes fluttered closed. Tell me to stop. I should. But are you going to? She opened her eyes and found him inches away, his expression raw and wanting and vulnerable in a way she'd never seen before. This wasn't the cold billionaire. This was just a man who'd been alone too long, reaching for something warm. No, she whispered. I'm not. Dashiell smiled, soft, genuine, devastating, and closed the distance between them. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, like neither of them quite believed this was happening. Then Liza's hand slid into his hair, and Dashiell made a sound low in his throat, and suddenly gentle became desperate. His hand tightened on her waist, pulling her closer, and Liza melted into him, tasting champagne and possibility, and everything she'd been trying not to want. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dashiell pressed his forehead to hers. We should talk about this, he said roughly. Probably. Set boundaries. Discuss what this means. Very professional of you. I'm trying to be responsible here, Liza. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. How's that working out? He laughed, and it was the most beautiful sound she'd ever heard. Terribly. I want to kiss you again. That could be arranged. You're making this very difficult. Good. She smiled. You're too used to things being easy. The car pulled up to her building, and reality crashed back in. Dashiell straightened, smoothing his hair, rebuilding his walls brick by brick. Monday, he said quietly. We'll talk Monday. Figure out what this is. Okay. Liza gathered her shoes and purse. For what it's worth, tonight was perfect. Even the part where my father was an ass. Especially that part. I got to defend you. She leaned over and kissed his cheek. Good night, Dashiell. As she walked to her building, she could feel his eyes on her. When she turned back, he was still watching, his expression unreadable. Monday suddenly felt very far away. Monday morning arrived with all the subtlety of a freight train, and Liza stood outside Dashiell's office at 7:45 a.m., clutching coffee like a life preserver and trying to remember how to breathe. They'd kissed. She'd kissed her boss. Her infuriatingly attractive, emotionally complicated, absolutely off-limits boss. And she wanted to do it again. "You planning to stand there all morning, or are you coming in?" Dashiell's voice made her jump. He stood in the doorway, perfectly composed in a charcoal suit, looking like Friday night had never happened. Professional. Distant. Cold. Her heart sank. "Morning," she managed, stepping inside. "I have your coffee and the quarterly reports you requested." "Thank you." He took the coffee without meeting her eyes. "Close the door, please." Oh, God. He was going to fire her. Or worse, give her the "it was a mistake" speech. Liza closed the door and turned to face her execution. "Friday night," Dashiell began. "Was unprofessional," Liza cut in, lifting her chin. "I understand if you want to terminate my employment. I'll clean out my desk quietly." His head snapped up. "What? No, Liza, I'm not firing you." "You're not. Why would you think—" He ran a hand through his hair, the first crack in his composure. "I brought you in here to apologize. For kissing me? For putting you in that position. You're my employee. I have power over your career, your livelihood. Kissing you was inappropriate, regardless of how much I wanted to." He finally looked at her, and the anguish in his eyes made her chest ache. "I took advantage." "No, you didn't." Liza stepped closer. "I kissed you back, Dashiell. Enthusiastically, if I recall correctly. That doesn't change the power dynamic. So what are you saying? We pretend it never happened. That would be the professional thing to do." But his voice lacked conviction. "And is that what you want?" She moved closer still, watching his jaw tighten. "To pretend? What I want is irrelevant. You deserve better than stolen kisses in the back of cars with your boss. You deserve someone who can take you to dinner without it being a scandal. Someone who doesn't come with a dysfunctional family and emotional baggage." His hands clenched into fists. "You deserve uncomplicated, Liza. And I'm anything but." Her heart was breaking and soaring simultaneously. "You're an idiot." He blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said you're an idiot. A brilliant, successful, emotionally constipated idiot." She closed the remaining distance between them. "I don't want uncomplicated. I don't want some boring guy who'll take me to Applebee's and talk about the weather. I want—" "Don't." His voice was strained. "Don't say something we can't take back." "I want you," she said anyway. Complicated baggage and all. "So the question is, what do you want?" The silence stretched between them, thick and electric. Dashiell's eyes darkened, his control visibly fraying. "I want—" He stopped, jaw working. "This is my company, my rules. If we do this, we do it right, transparent. We notify HR, disclose the relationship, accept whatever consequences come. No secrets." Liza's breath caught. "You're serious?" "I don't do anything halfway." He reached out, tucking a blonde strand behind her ear, the gesture achingly tender. "But I need to know you're sure. Because once we cross this line, there's no going back. If it ends badly, it won't. You can't know that. Neither can you. That's called taking a risk." She caught his hand, pressing it to her cheek. "Isn't that what you do? Calculate risks and make bold moves. This isn't a business deal, Liza." "No, it's scarier." She smiled. "It's real." Something in him cracked. He pulled her close, his forehead touching hers. "You're going to ruin me." "Promise?" He laughed, soft, desperate, and kissed her. This kiss was different from Friday's champagne-fueled passion. This was a choice, a commitment, a leap into the terrifying unknown. When they broke apart, Dashiell kept her close, his arms wrapped around her waist. "HR meeting tomorrow. We do this properly." Such a romantic. "I'm trying to protect you. If people think I'm showing favoritism, then I'll work twice as hard and prove I earned my place." Liza looked up at him. "We'll figure it out together." Isn't that what couples do? Couples. He tested the word like it was foreign. I like how that sounds. Good, because you're stuck with me now. Lucky me. But his smile was genuine, warm, everything she'd hoped for. A sharp knock interrupted the moment. They sprang apart just as the door opened, revealing a stunning brunette in a power suit. "Dashiell, darling. Surprise!" The woman's smile faltered when she saw Liza. "Oh, I didn't realize you had company." Dashiell's entire body went rigid. "Victoria, what are you doing here? Is that any way to greet your fiancé?" The world tilted sideways. Liza stared at the woman, then at Dashiell, whose face had gone pale. "Ex-fiancé," he said tightly. "Liza, this is Victoria Ashford, my father's business partner's daughter. Victoria, this is Liza Hartwell, my assistant, and my girlfriend." Victoria's perfect eyebrows rose. "How modern. Well, this should make our wedding planning interesting." "There is no wedding. Your father seems to think otherwise. He called me last night, said it was time to stop this silly estrangement and get back to business." Victoria's smile was pure poison. "Apparently, combining Thornfield and Ashford Enterprises is still the plan. And I'm part of the package." Liza's stomach dropped as she watched Dashiell's expression shudder completely. This was far from over. The conference room felt like a battlefield. On one side, Dashiell, his father, and Victoria. On the other, Liza, trying to understand how her perfect Monday had turned into a corporate nightmare. "This is absurd," Dashiell said coldly. "Victoria and I ended our engagement 2 years ago. There is no wedding. There will be if you want to keep this company." His father's voice was steel. "The Ashford merger is worth $3 billion. Victoria is part of the agreement. You marry her, we combine empires, everyone wins. Except me." Dashiell's jaw was tight. "And Liza." "The assistant?" His father's laugh was cruel. "Come now, son. Have your fun, but don't confuse entertainment with commitment. Victoria is your equal. She understands our world." "I understand hard work," Liza snapped, unable to stay quiet. "I understand loyalty. What I don't understand is treating people like chess pieces." Victoria smiled. "How sweet. She thinks she matters." "She matters more than you ever did," Dashiell shot back. "Victoria cared about my bank account. Liza cares about me." "Then prove it." His father leaned forward. "Choose the girl and lose the company. I'll call an emergency board meeting, vote you out, and install Victoria's father as CEO. Everything you've built, gone." The color drained from Dashiell's face. "You wouldn't." "Try me. You have until Friday to decide. The company or the farm girl." The days that followed were torture. Dashiell threw himself into work, barely speaking to Liza except for terse professional exchanges. She could see him unraveling. Less sleep, shorter temper, the light in his eyes dimming with each passing hour. Wednesday afternoon, she found him staring out his office window, a glass of scotch in hand, though it was barely noon. "Talk to me," she said softly. "What's there to say? I'm being blackmailed into marrying someone I don't love, or losing everything I've spent 10 years building." He didn't turn around. "Some choice. There's always a choice. Is there? If I choose you, I lose the company. Thousands of employees lose their jobs. Investors lose millions. All because I was selfish enough to want something for myself. That's not selfish. That's human." Liza moved closer. "Your father is manipulating you. He's protecting his legacy. The company is everything to him. And what about you? What do you want?" Finally, he turned. The devastation in his eyes nearly broke her. "I want you. God, Liza. I want you so badly it terrifies me. But I can't be the man who destroys thousands of livelihoods for love. What kind of person does that make me? The kind who deserves to be happy. Do I? My father's right about one thing. You'd be better off without me. Without this mess." His voice cracked. You should go. Find someone uncomplicated who can give you the life you deserve. Don't you dare. Tears burned her eyes. Don't you dare make this decision for me. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need protection. I need you to fight for us. She was shouting now, frustration and heartbreak pouring out. I need you to stop letting your father control your life. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Choose me, Dashiell. Choose us. We'll figure out the rest together. And if we can't? If I lose everything and end up resenting you? The question hung between them like a blade. Then I guess you have your answer, Liza whispered. You're not ready. You're still that scared boy who thinks love makes you weak. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I fell in love with you, you idiot. I fell in love with your stupid smile and your terrible coffee orders and the way you pretend not to care, but you care so much it hurts you. I fell in love with all of it, but I can't fight for someone who won't fight for himself. Dashiell stared at her, his own eyes suspiciously bright. Liza, I quit. The words tasted like ash. Effective immediately. I'll pack my things. Wait. No. You said I deserve better. You're right. I deserve someone brave enough to choose me. Apparently, that's not you. She walked out before he could respond. Before she could see if those were tears on his face or her imagination. Before she completely shattered. In her tiny desk outside his office, she gathered her few belongings with shaking hands. Through the glass, she could see Dashiell standing motionless where she'd left him, a statue of misery. Her phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Come home. Ice cream ready. Another buzz. Vivian. Heard what happened. That family is toxic. You're better off. But she didn't feel better. She felt broken. As Liza walked out of Thornfield Enterprises for the last time, she didn't look back. If she had, she would have seen Dashiell watching her leave, his hand pressed against the glass, his expression raw with regret. And she would have seen the moment he reached for his phone and made a call that would change everything. Dad, we need to talk, and you're not going to like what I have to say. Liza had been home for exactly 47 hours when someone knocked on her apartment door at midnight on Friday. If that's another delivery guy with the wrong address, I swear. She yanked open the door and froze. Dashiell Thornfield stood in her hallway, still in his suit but rumpled, tie gone, hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. He looked exhausted and wild and absolutely beautiful. You quit, he said. I noticed. I was there. You told me I wasn't brave enough to choose you. Liza's heart clenched. Dashiell, it's midnight. What are you— You were right. He stepped closer. I was a coward. I let my father manipulate me. I let fear control me. I chose the safe option because it was easier than risking my heart. His voice cracked. But losing you? That's not safe. That's devastating. What are you saying? I'm saying I called an emergency board meeting this afternoon. I told my father that if he tried to force this merger, I'd resign as CEO and start my own company. I told Victoria that hell would freeze over before I married her. I told the entire board that I'm in love with my assistant, and if that's a problem, they can find a new CEO. Liza's breath caught. You didn't. I absolutely did. My father threatened to disown me. Victoria called me an idiot. 3 board members walked out. He smiled. That devastating, genuine smile she loved. Best decision I ever made. But the company belongs to the shareholders, not my father. They voted. Unanimous confidence in my leadership. Merger rejected. And my father was removed from the advisory board for attempted coercion. He took her hands. I'm free, Liza. Free from his manipulation. Free from expectations. Free to choose what I want. And I choose you. Every single time. Tears streamed down her face. You're insane. About you? Absolutely. He cupped her face, thumbs wiping away her tears. I love you. I love your terrible jokes and your Iowa stubbornness and the way you defend me even when I don't deserve it. I love that you walked into the wrong room and turned my entire world upside down. I love you, Liza Hartwell, and I'm done pretending I don't." "You giant idiot," she sobbed, throwing her arms around his neck. "I love you too." He kissed her then, deep, desperate, full of promise and apology and everything they'd been too scared to say before. When they broke apart, both were crying and laughing simultaneously. "So," Dashiell said, forehead pressed to hers, "about that job, I need a new personal assistant. Benefits include health insurance, competitive salary, and unlimited access to the CEO's heart. That last one sounds dangerous." "Probably, but you like danger. Only the tall, dark, and emotionally unavailable kind." She pulled back to meet his eyes. "Are you sure about this? Really sure? Because I can't go through losing you again." "You won't, I promise." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Liza's heart stopped. "Dashiell, relax. It's not what you think. Not yet, anyway." He opened it to reveal a delicate key on a silver chain. "It's the key to my apartment. Move in with me. Not because you work for me, but because I can't imagine waking up without you. We'll figure out the job thing. Maybe you become COO. Maybe you work elsewhere. I don't care. As long as at the end of the day you come home to me." That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. "Is that a yes?" "You're lucky I love you," she whispered. "Yes, to all of it. Yes." He kissed her again, lifting her off her feet, both of them laughing through tears. Patricia emerged from her room, took one look at them, and retreated with a whispered, "Finally." As Dashiell carried her inside, Liza thought about that morning she'd walked into the wrong room, the wrong floor, the wrong meeting, the wrong man. Except he wasn't wrong at all. He was absolutely, perfectly right. 1 year later, the wedding invitation sat on Liza's desk at Thornfield Enterprises, or rather Thornfield Hartwell Solutions, as they'd renamed it when she became COO 6 months ago. "Victoria Ashford and Marcus Chen invite you to their wedding." "Can you believe she's marrying an artist?" Dashiell said, reading over her shoulder. "My father nearly had an aneurysm." "Good for her. Turns out she just needed someone who saw her as more than a business asset." Liza leaned back against him. "Sound familiar?" "Vaguely." He kissed her temple. "Should we go? To your ex-fiancé's wedding? That's not awkward at all." "Please. I want to show off my actual fiancé." He took her left hand, where a diamond ring now sparkled. "The one who actually loves me." "Lucky her," Liza teased. "Lucky me." He turned her to face him. "I still can't believe you said yes. To marrying you or to running your company?" "Both." "Well, someone has to keep you humble, and make sure you don't fire people for being 2 minutes late. That was one time, and I rehired him. Because I made you. Because you make me better." His expression softened. "You make everything better, Liza." She kissed him, soft and sweet, still amazed that this was her life, that the cold, cruel billionaire from that first meeting had become this warm, loving man who brought her coffee in bed and donated anonymously to Iowa farms and looked at her like she hung the moon. "Hey," she whispered. "Want to hear something funny?" "Always." "I'm glad I walked into the wrong room." Dashiell smiled, that real, unguarded smile reserved only for her. "Best mistake either of us ever made." And as they stood in their office, wrapped in each other's arms, Liza knew he was absolutely right. Sometimes the wrong room leads you exactly where you're meant to be. The end.